Riikka, good morning, for I assume that you will be listening to this some point after you wake up. I meant to do this. I wanted to do this for your birthday, but for various practical reasons, it was not possible. It is just a short reading from a book we have been discussing, and it is a new version, actually. This was very interesting to discover. This is not the version that I used to have. I bought a new one because the older one is very small print, and it's quite difficult for me to read that now. So this is a new book, but it's also a new version, a new translation, and everything. I wonder if it'll be better. I don't know. I haven't read it yet. But I'm going to, and I'm going to start reading it now. So, let's get on with it. It's Thomas Mann, Dr. Faustus, A Life of the German composer Adrian Leverkühn, as told by a friend. And it begins with a quote from Dante's Inferno, which I won't try to read. It is in Italian. Doesn't seem necessary. Right. Chapter 1. With utmost emphasis, I wish to assert that it is not out of any desire to thrust my own person into the foreground that I offer a few words about myself and my circumstances in preface to this account of the life of the late Adrian Leverkühn. To this first and certainly very provisional biography of a musical genius, a revered man, sorely tried by fate, which both raised him up and then cast him down. I offer such words solely under the presumption that the reader, or better, future reader, since at any moment there is still not the slightest prospect that my manuscript will ever see the light of public day, unless, that is, by some miracle it were to leave our beleaguered fortress Europe and share the whispered secrets of our isolation with those outside. But please allow me to begin anew. Only because I assume that someone might wish in passing to be informed as to who and what the writer is, do I preface these disclosures with a few remarks concerning my person, though not without any real apprehension that in so doing I may move the reader to consider whether he finds himself in the right hands, which is to say, whether, given all that I am the right man for a task to which I am drawn more by my heart, perhaps, than by any legitimizing affinity. Reading back over the preceding lines, I cannot help noticing a certain uneasiness, a laboured breathing, only too characteristic of the state of mind which I find myself here today, in Freising on the Isar, on the 13th of May, 1943, 2 years after Leverkühn's death, which is to say, 2 years since he passed from the depth of night into deepest night. I sit in my little study so many years to commence any description of the life of my unfortunate friend, resting now, oh may it be so, with God. Characteristic, I say, of a state of mind that is the most onerous combination of a heart-pounding need to speak and a deep reticence before my own inadequacy. I am a thoroughly even-tempered man. Indeed, if I may say so, a healthy, humanely tempered man, with a mind given to things harmonious and reasonable, a scholar and conjuratus of the Latin host, not without ties to the fine arts, I play the viola d'amore, but a son of the Muses in the academic sense of the term, who gladly regards himself a descendant of the great German humanists, associated with the letters of an obscure man, an heir to Reuchlin, Crotus of Dorheim, Mutianus, and Eoban Hesse. Though scarcely presuming to deny the influence of the demonic on human life, I have always found it a force totally foreign to my nature, and I have instinctively excluded it from my world-view, having never felt the slightest inclination boldly to seek out the intimacy of those nether powers, or worse, wantonly to challenge them, or to give them so much as my little finger when they have approached me with temptation. This attitude has meant sacrifices, both in ideal terms as regards my physical well-being, for once it became apparent that my views could not be reconciled with the spirit and claims of our historical developments, I did not hesitate prematurely to retire from the teaching profession I loved. In that respect, I am at peace with myself. But this same firmness, or if you like, narrowness of my ethical position, can only reinforce my doubts as to whether I ought truly to feel called to the task that I have taken on. I had barely put my pen to paper when a word flowed from it that is already the source of some personal discomfiture. The word genius. I spoke of my late friend's musical genius. Now the word genius, though in some sense extravagant, nonetheless has a noble, harmonious, and humanely healthy character, and some such as myself, to the extent that he makes no claim that his own person may share in that exalted region, or has ever been graced with divinitas influxibus ex alto, divinity flowing from grace flowing from on high, should see no reasonable argument for shying from it, no point in not speaking of it and dealing with it, while casting a cordial upward glance of relevant familiarity. So it seems. And yet it cannot be, nor has it ever been denied, that the demonic and the irrational have a disquieting share in that radiant sphere, that there is always a faint, sinister connection between it and the netherworld. And for that reason, those reassuring epithets that I sought to attribute to genius, noble, humanely healthy, and harmonious, do not quite fit, not even when, and it is rather painful for me to make this distinction, not even when it is a matter of pure and authentic genius, bestowed or perhaps inflicted by God. Rather an acquired and destructive genius, a sinful and morbid necrosis of natural talents, the fruition of some horrible pact. Here I break off, stung by the humiliation of my own artistic inadequacies and lack of control. Adrian himself would surely never, in, let us say, a symphony, have announced such a theme so prematurely, that it would almost insinuate itself from afar in some subtly concealed and almost impalpable fashion. For that matter, what I let slip above may strike the reader as merely an obscure, dubious allusion, and only I see myself as having indiscreetly and clumsily blurted everything out at once. For a person like myself, when dealing with a subject as dear to the heart, as searingly urgent as this, it is very difficult, indeed it verges on impudence, to assume the standpoint of the composer, and to treat the matter with an artist's playful equanimity, which was the reason for my over-hasty differentiations between pure and impure genius, a distinction whose existence I acknowledge only immediately to ask if it has a right to exist. Indeed, experience has forced me to ponder the question so intensely, so earnestly, that at times I have been frightened by the notion that in doing so I am being carried beyond an appropriate and wholesome level of thought, and am myself experiencing an impure enhancement of my natural talents. And wow, there I'm going to stop. That's only the first 2 pages. I'm sorry I really didn't, I didn't prepare that thoroughly, but I just thought it was important to try to do it spontaneously. My God, there's a lot in there, isn't there? 2 pages in, and enough questions to last a lifetime. Right. I hope I read at the right speed, and please let me know if it was too fast or too slow. If I do another one for you, if you want, I'll promise I will prepare it so that I do not have any hesitation when I'm reading the sentences. Gosh. Sorry, it's just that that took me back to when I first read it, and it's just as good. I will leave it there. I'm sorry. Right, now, bye-bye, Riikka. Have a wonderful day.